بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد إخوة الإسلام عباد الله. I want to touch on an incorrect statement that is commonly spread amongst circles of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah here in the U.S., and that statement being, there is no differing in Al-Aqeedah. This statement in the absolute sense is an incorrect statement, and it is a statement that is not built and based upon reality when looking at the varying affairs of knowledge. And so you have some people, some even being du'at, that make this claim. And for those that make this claim, they're either one of two types. Either one, they're ignorant as it relates to reality of this affair, or two, they're disingenuous, meaning they know the reality, but they purposely lie on account of some agenda that they may have with them. And in some cases, we've even seen this statement weaponized and used against other callers. But the reality, there is differing in Aqeedah, and it's important for the person that's watching this video to watch it to the very end to get a clear understanding of what is intended. And so I'm not going to speak on the matter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the statement of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi from his sharh to the book Al-Aqeedah As-Safariniyya, where he goes through this particular mas'ala. And so when looking at the statement of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih, he states, لا يمكن أن نقول, that it is not possible for us to say إن جميع مسائل العقيدة يجب فيها اليقين. He states that it's not possible for us to say that every single matter or subject, yani from the affairs of the creed or al-Aqeedah, that is compulsory that we have certainty therein. Certainty therein. It's not possible for us to say this. لأن من مسائل العقيدة ما اختلف فيه العلماء. Keep in mind, he says, and that is on account of the fact that some affairs of Aqeedah, the scholars differ therein. And he states, and whatsoever there is differing in amongst the Ahlul Ilm, amongst the people of knowledge, فَلَيْسَ يَقِينِيًا, that these are not affairs that certainty is held in that regard. These affairs that in matters of Aqeedah, there's ihtimalat, there's possibilities, yani as it relates to these affairs, and so absolute certainty in these affairs cannot be. It's not absolute surety or certainty that it's this way or that way. This is as it relates to the affairs of Aqeedah. Now the Shaykh, he mentions some examples. فمثلا اختلف العلماء رحمهم الله في عذاب القبر هل هو واقع على البدن أو على الروح. He states, the scholars, they differ concerning the punishment of the grave. Does it befall the body, the physical body, or the ruh, the one spirit? Is one spirit that which is being punished? Now keep in mind, before I continue, there is a fundamental issue being discussed. That is the punishment of the grave. And so it's obligatory to believe in the punishment of the grave. There's surety in that. However, connected to this mas'ala, connected to this belief, there is an issue that branches forth or emanates from that, it being what exactly is being punished, the physical body or the spirit of an individual. So this particular mas'ala, it is min al-umur al-ghaybiyya. It is from the affairs of the unseen, in which there is not a explicit text that brings about certainty in this or that. It's from the affairs of the Aqeedah, and as a result, the scholars differ therein. The scholars differ therein. He gives another example. وَاخْتَلَفَ الْعُلَمَاءُ رَحِمَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَيْضًا فِي الَّذِي يُوزَنُ. The scholars also differ in that which will be weighed. Is it the actions? Is it the scrolls that contain the actions of an individual? Or is it the person that does the actions? What will be weighed? What will be weighed? Now, there is no doubt in the fundamental belief of the mizan, of the scale. Ahlul Sunnah affirm and believe in the scales. But there is an issue that branches from this belief, and that is, what is it that will be weighed? And it's this particular issue where the scholars are differing, yet it's still a part of al-Aqeedah, the creed. He continues, وَاخْتَلَفَ الْعُلَمَاءُ أَيْضًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي أُسْكِنَهَا الَّتِي أُسْكِنُهَا آدَمُ. He states, and the scholars differed as it relates to the garden in which Adam was placed in and lived in. هل هي جنة الخلود or khuld? Is it the everlasting garden? Am Jannah fi dunya, or a garden in the dunya, or a garden in the dunya. واختلف العلماء أيضا في رؤيا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ربه. And the scholars differed as it relates to if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw his Lord. Did he see his Lord with his eyes? يعني في الحياة, while he was living, or did he see him with his heart? And he continues, and the scholars differed with regards to the hellfire. Will it last? Yani, will it exist forever, or is it temporal? Or is it temporal? So these are 5 different affairs that the Shaykh mentions, giving examples of how there is differing in Aqeedah. And there are other affairs that he didn't mention, like the differing as it relates to what was created first, the qalam or the arsh, and thus forth and so on. But the reality, like I stated earlier, there are fundamental beliefs, like for instance, if we were dealing with the creation of the qalam and the arsh, which came first, the fundamental belief is that the qalam and the arsh exist. We've never saw them, but we affirm that they exist on account that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam have informed us of these 2 things. Now, what branches forth from this fundamental belief is this other issue of which from amongst these 2 things were created first, the qalam or the arsh. The qalam or the arsh. So these things are extensions from a fundamental belief, but yet and still from the Aqeedah. So Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih, he continues, all of these affairs are from the creed. And so the statement that al-Aqeedah, there is not within it khilaf or differing, in the absolute and or unrestricted sense is not correct. Is not correct. So when you hear the statement, there is no different in Aqeedah, and it's said in this unrestricted and absolute sense, then this statement, as the Sheikh is stating, is not correct. And he continues, and that is because there is differing in affairs of creed, that which some people enact based off overwhelming opinion or preponderant, probable, that which is more probable, that which is held based off what an individual will believe to be more probable. And then, he continues giving examples, but I want to skip down to the statement of the Sheikh when he states, أن مسائل العقيدة ليست كلها مما لا بد فيه من اليقين. He states that undoubtedly the affairs of the Aqeedah, not all of the affairs of the Aqeedah are from that which it is mandatory for a person to have certainty therein. And that is because certainty, or which is less than certainty, is according to to contention as it relates to the evidence that one is looking at. And contention to the evidence is in accordance with an individual's understanding and his knowledge. That there are evidences out here that may have multiple possibilities, and this different occurs based off contention towards that text on account of an individual's understanding of that text or his knowledge thereof. And then he continues, and sometimes there could be two evidences that are in contention with the individual. However, with another individual, there is no contention between these two texts. So one individual may look at the text and he understands it a particular way, that there appears to be contention between the two, and then another one doesn't understand it like that at all. And that is because with the second one, it becomes clear with him that this text is understood from one perspective, whereas another text is understood from a totally different perspective. And the example of the individual like this, there is no problem with him as it pertains to the affair. On the contrary, with him there is certainty as it relates to what the text is pointing to. As for the first example, then there may be a little confusion with him. And so he makes the tarjih from these two perspectives that he finds to be contentious. And he arrives at what he believes to be what is most probable as it relates to these texts that are directly connected to or related to the Aqeedah. And the Shaykh continues, and on account of that, لا يمكن أن نقول إن جميع مسائل العقيدة مما يتعين فيه الجزم ومما لا خلاف فيه. And he states, and on account of that, it is not possible for us to say that every single subject matter and every single affair as it relates to Aqeedah is from that which it is necessary to have some type of assurance therein, some type of certainty therein. And it is not possible for us to say that there is no khilaf or no differing in these affairs. And that is because what has occurred in Islamic history as it relates to the scholarship and thus forth and so on, then what has actually occurred, it differs from the claim of those that say there is no differing in Aqeedah. What is factual in history differs with that statement. And he continues, فَفِي مَسَائِلِ الْعَقِيدَةِ مَا فِيهِ خِلَافٍ. And then in the affairs of Aqeedah, there is that which there is that which therein is differing. And from the affairs of Aqeedah, there is whatsoever that there are affairs that it is not possible for an individual to have total assurance therein. On the contrary, he holds a position of that which is most probable concerning that which is with him, from the evidences and thus forth and so on. And so anyway, the Sheikh, he continues and he goes back over again another point illustrating the fact that there is differing in this regard. And I believe that the statements of the Sheikh that were just presented are sufficient in illustrating that the statement, there is no differing in Aqeedah, the statement in the unrestricted sense, just as I have said it, then this statement is not exactly correct and it differs with reality, especially as it relates to Islamic scholarship that we found throughout history, that there is. But again, I believe that it's very important to point out that one, there are fundamental issues within the Aqeedah, and those fundamental issues there is no differing in. There is no differing in the existence of a paradise or the fire. There is no differing in the qalam and the arsh, or the mizan, and thus forth and so on. On the contrary, the differing comes in as it relates to affairs and or issues that branch forth from these fundamental aspects of the creed. So when we look at the Asha'ira or the Maturidiyya, who differ with Ahlul Sunnah as it relates to the Sifat of Allah, for instance, then what Ahlul Sunnah, what the Sunni and the scholars upon the Sunnah in the past, there is no differing in that regard. Even if you found a scholar that was legitimately considered to be taken from that made a mistake in that regard, when it comes to Ahlul Sunnah in general, it's looked at as the scholar made a mistake. But there is no differing with Ahlul Sunnah as it relates to the Aqeedah, the Sifat of the names of Allah and the Sifat of Allah, and thus forth and so on. The type of differing that the Asha'ira and the Maturidiyya do, and those that are like them, is considered to be clashing with the text. Clashing with the text. So that type of differing is not the same differing that was just illustrated. So the point, again, the statement there is no differing in Aqeedah is not a statement of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, because it clashes with reality. It clashes with reality. There has been differing, but there's been differing in a particular aspect of the creed. As Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih Al Uthaymeen pointed out and illustrated, aspects where unwavering certainty cannot be established. And these are aspects that are usually connected to fundamental aspects of the creed where unwavering certainty is established. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.